Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Cover Zero podcast, the show where I cover the least in the best way possible. I'm your host, Jason Wells. Today is May 15th, and it is scheduled release day. Unfortunately, because I always record the day before, I don't know the full schedule yet. That'll be in next week's episode. Sucks we're going to have to wait a full week for my breakdown, and I know we all long and live to hear my breakdowns of the NFL. We know a few matchups right off the bat, and I'll talk about them very quickly. So this episode, like always, NFL Weekly Update, start the show with that. And then I teased last week that I was going to kind of do like my tier rankings of positions. That got way too hard, especially when you get into the positions where like wide receiver, where I can go 50 deep and we're still talking about starters kind of across the league. So I'm not doing that. I'm ranking position groups. So what I mean by that is, and I'll explain more when we get to that segment, but for wide receivers, I'm just going team. So the Dolphins, and I'm bunching in tight ends with that. So it's the receiving group. So for the Dolphins, it's Tyreek, it's Waddle, it's OBJ, it's Jonnu Smith, Braxton Berrios, and then we kind of get into the mud there. So that's how I'm going to do it. For this episode, though, it'll be head coaches, O-line, and quarterbacks. So quarterback I didn't take into the count. Oh, the backups, that'll give the edge. I just went with starters. For most of this, I'm including starters. For the offensive line, I did look into the depth a little bit because depth is always key on the offensive line. But yeah, I guess let's get right into the NFL Weekly Update. Yeah, starting off with these schedule updates. So it has been announced who the Chiefs are playing in the home opener. They are playing the Baltimore Ravens on Thursday Night Football. That'll be excellent. AFC Championship game rematch. Both teams look very different. Look very different on offense. The Ravens look very different on offense and defense, honestly. But that'll be a good one. And then they announced week 2 for the Chiefs as well. The Chiefs play the Bengals. So Chiefs going out the gates, looking, if they start 2-0, that's great. If they go 1-1, then people are, hit the panic button on the Chiefs like everyone did last year. Myself included, a little bit, not really. I always thought that the Chiefs had that extra gear in them, and it was proved right there. Other games that have been announced, Jets 49ers, Monday Night Football. Aaron Rodgers makes his return. And it's funny because last year in that first game, playing against the Bills, Leonard Floyd is the one who got the sack where Rodgers tore his ACL and who is now on the 49ers, about to play the Jets week 1. It is Leonard Floyd, so a bit of a revenge game for Aaron, but Leonard Floyd has he has a chance to do one of the funniest things possible in the NFL this season. A couple more announcements. Cowboys-Browns got announced for a Sunday Night Football game, and I think it's mainly just because this will be Tom Brady's first game announced. Not excited for that one whatsoever. Bills-Dolphins is week 2, Thursday Night Football. That'll be a great matchup. Get a primetime game right off the bat. Get our Thursday Night Football game away right off the bat. So that'll be nice. And obviously we know the Brazil game, so we know some games. Next week I'll probably dive into a little like what are my 5 favorite matchups or 5 like matchups, primetime matchups that I'm most excited for, but that's a next week thing. Okay, we have some extensions here. Jared Goff got an absolute bag. 4-year, $212 million, $170 million guaranteed. So that comes out to $51 million AAV per season. Yeah. Goff deserves this. Goff has now got 2 bags from 2 different teams. And yeah, they kind of put the Lions in a spot where they didn't really go further. They had an opportunity to push further QB of the future last year in the draft, and they're like, no, we're going to stick it out with Goff. And now they're stuck with Goff, and that's not a good thing. I mean, we'll get into my QB ranking shortly. I really like Jared Goff. Jared Goff is a franchise quarterback, but like a lot of these quarterbacks I will talk about soon, they need the pieces around him, and lucky for him, the Lions have the pieces around him. One of the best offensive lines in the league. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta. The run game is fantastic. Like, this Lions team is built for success. The defense got better. Who says Jared Goff can't win a Super Bowl for the Detroit Lions? Now, you're probably wondering, what does this mean for the Miami Dolphins and Tua Tagovailoa? Tua will get probably around that $55 million mark that Burrow did. I'm fully expecting that. The number in the offseason was, $60 million. We get him at 55. We get him lower than 55. I'm very happy. That's just what happens when you have to pay a quarterback and pay a franchise guy. You got to pay the going rate for quarterbacks, and that is the going rate for quarterbacks. Another big extension here, Antoine Winfield Jr., 4-year, $84.1 million deal, 45 guaranteed, making him the highest paid safety in NFL history. And not only the highest paid safety, the highest paid secondary player in NFL history. And absolutely deservedly so. I think he was an All-Pro last year. Most forced fumbles of his career, most interceptions of his career, most sacks of his career. He is an absolute stud for the Bucs, and they have one of the best safeties in the league. And now that resets the market for another team. How does this affect the Miami Dolphins, who have to pay Javon Holland? Holland's going to ask for a bag. That's fine. He deserves a bag, but Winfield truly resets the market for DBs, and now whoever that next corner is being like, well, I got to make more than a safety. My position's more important. And that's up for debate. I do think corner is a more valuable position than safety, but it is what it is. Congrats, Antoine. And yeah, with that Antoine Winfield signing, everyone who got franchise tagged has signed a new deal, except for T. Higgins, who has asked for a trade. T. Higgins will not get traded, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. He looks like he's going to be playing on that tag. We'll see how well it goes for him here. Some NFL draft news, or I guess NFL rookie news at this point, but Johnny Newton, who was the Commander's second-round pick, the big defensive tackle out of Illinois, needs foot surgery on his other foot. The same surgery he got, I don't know which foot it was, but he's getting the same surgery now on his other foot because the same issue just happened, and this is tough, and this might have been a reason why Johnny Newton fell a little bit in the draft. Foot injuries with big, powerful defensive linemen are tough. You hurt your foot, you get surgery, and meanwhile you're compensating everything on that other foot. And they're heavy people, they're powerful people, and all of the pressure and weight and the stress goes on that one foot while the other one heals and causes the same issue. And now he's going to be playing this balancing act of, okay, I'm healing one foot and the other one's getting better while one's getting worse, and then boom, I need surgery again. And hoping for the best, obviously I do not want that. The good thing is he won't be put into a position to start immediately. Still got Jonathan Allen, still got Daron Payne on that defensive line. So they can just rest him until he's healthy, and hopefully that is the plan for him, because he is a fantastic talent, and I would love to see him wreak havoc in this league for years to come. Elliot Wolf has officially been named as the Patriots GM. I think he was their president of player ops or whatever it is, so now he gets the GM role too. They went through kind of like some interviews, some hires, whatever. I think it was just kind of to go through the process of doing that. Elliot Wolf is their guy, kind of a formality, but he is their guy. It came out that the New York Jets wanted to replace Hackett at offensive coordinator this season, and whether or not it was replace him entirely at offensive coordinator or get someone above him who calls the plays while he still remains offensive coordinator. No idea how that would have worked. They couldn't get it done. But yeah, Nate Hackett is one of the reasons why I don't have a lot of faith in the Jets. Apparently during training camp last year, Hackett would call a play in and Rodgers would immediately change the play. And this happened constantly and consistently, apparently. So, yeah, we'll see how that works out for the Jets. Never a good sign going into training camp when there's rumors of being like, we don't want this offensive coordinator on our team. A few signings to finish it out here. Zay Jones signs with the Cardinals. Yeah, Cardinals get a big speedster on the outside to pair, I guess, with Marvin Harrison. Uh, like Zay Jones shouldn't be your wide receiver two, but on that team, there's Michael Wilson, there's Greg Dortch. Wide receiver two is really up for grab. Zay Jones is good. I like him. Bud Dupree goes to the Chargers. Chargers just kind of adding some more pass rushing depth. Bud Dupree, solid player at this point. Good rotational pass rush guy, and with Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa, one of them's going to get hurt eventually, so Bud Dupree will get some starts there. Marquez Valdez Scantling goes to the Bills. Goes from being wide receiver 2 on the Chiefs last year to wide receiver 4 on the Bills. Obviously, he had some drops, but he came up clutch in those playoff games for the Chiefs this season. So, Bills just get another guy who can stretch the field for Josh Allen. Allen Robinson goes to the Giants. His name carries more weight than anything at this point. Over the last 3 seasons, I don't even think he's amassed 1,000 yards total. So he goes to the Giants. Good vet to have in the room, I guess. And Albert Wilson retires from the NFL. Former Chief, former Dolphin. Was like a solid wide receiver 3 during his heyday. Yeah, and again, this is kind of like that Duke Johnson retiring from last. It's just these guys who I grew up watching, and they weren't stars, and they weren't like real, or I won't say quality players, because Albert Wilson was a quality player, but these role guys and these guys that you kind of know that get tossed around the league. But it's like, Albert Wilson, solid NFL player. He did. He had a solid career, but his career is now done. And finally, again, one of these things that I kind of missed out due to when I schedule and when I do my podcast, but the NBA NFL debate. Who was it that said it? Austin Rivers said that he could name 30 NBA players that could play in the NFL. And then I think Dan Orlovsky went back and said, I could name 30 NFL players, and named guys like Chris Jones and Myles Garrett and TJ Watt and Justin Herbert. Like, no. I will say this, I won't go into a big spiel about it, but if you are an elite athlete, and I mean like the 1% of the 1%, because if you make it to any of these professional leagues, you are a 1% athlete, but the 1% of the 1%, like, hold on, let me reset. If you are a 1% of a 1% athlete, it is much, much easier to make it to the NFL. The NFL is obviously, there's a lot of other things that go into it, and got to learn the playbook and how to play the position well and blah, blah, blah. But if you are an elite athlete, it is much easier for you to make the NFL than it is the NBA. Like, I don't think that there's a single NFL player that could go start or go play for an NBA team right now and be any good. Like, the NBA Combine's happening right now, and Zach Edey, who's 7'4", not a good shooter, he was raining threes at the Combine. And that's a man who's probably not going to attempt many threes in his career. That just shows how talented shooters all of these guys are that are in the NBA. And some of them are considered bad shooters, where I don't care what you did in high school, or, these players who played in college who went on to be NFL players. Like, no, let's chill. I don't think there's any NFL guys who could make it. In terms of NBA guys, the ones that got thrown out there, Anthony Edwards, obviously. I didn't know this, but Jalen Suggs was like Mr. Ohio football and got offers from like Ohio State and Georgia as a quarterback. So I don't know how good he would have been, but that's a cool one. And then other than that, there's not many guys. Like, people toss out, LeBron or Russell Westbrook. Those guys are too old. Like, LeBron's turning 40 next year. Like, let's pump the brakes a little bit. But yeah, that'll do it. Let's get into these position group rankings. So how I'm going to do this, so I'm doing coaches, offensive lines, and quarterbacks today, and all of them are going to have a number 1 through 32. And then at the end of everything, I'm going to average out all those numbers and all those rankings, and I will have my final score put into a power rankings, and then I will assess my own power rankings versus what my position group and what my position grades say. And I'm excited to do this. I think this is an easier way to do this. I did clump all offensive line together because it's just easier that way. I didn't do the same on the defense. I did interior defensive line, and then I did edge as its own separate groups, which maybe I'm rethinking. I got time. I got actually a couple weeks until I have to really think about how I want to do that. But for now, I've separated them. But let's get into the coaching rankings. For this, I will start off at the bottom here. And I've also tiered it. I've ranked them within my tiers, but I have tiered them off. So this is my hot seat tier. These are coaches who I don't think will survive the season, or right now going into the season, they are firmly on the hot seat. Starting off with number 32, we have Saints coach Dennis Allen. I think the man's just kind of riding the wave until they're able to reset their cap and actually try to field a competitive team again. He is not a good coach. He clearly doesn't have command of the locker room after what Jameis Winston did, just basically like, nah, we're scoring a touchdown here. Fuck this. Yeah, Dennis Allen, number 32. 31, we have Mike McCarthy. Now, I could definitely argue, or you could definitely argue, he should be much higher on this list. But again, I think he's not good. I think he's been carried by Aaron Rodgers and then very, very well-constructed Dallas Cowboys teams. And time again, he has been one of the major reasons why the Cowboys don't get over that hump in the playoffs. And I think he's gone after this year. I think simple as that, he's gone. At number 30, I have Matt Eberflus. Now, he started to turn it around at the end of last year, but we've seen 2 years now of like okay coaching, and now you have a real chance he could be a real riser in these rankings this time next year, but right now he's in at number 30. 29, I have Doug Peterson. He obviously won the Super Bowl with the Eagles in 2017, or I guess it would have been 2018 Super Bowl, whatever. But his coaching tenure so far, like with the Jags, has just been very mediocre, average, okay. I'm expecting the Jags to take these jumps, and they've just kind of been stagnant, even though they should be much better given everything around and what's been invested into this team. Like, I don't think Trent Baalke's a good GM either. I don't think that Peterson has a good coaching staff around this team, and that's why he falls in at 29. 28, I have Nick Sirianni, the Eagles head coach. He's just got to pick good coordinators, and I think that he has this year. Kellen Moore, Vic Fangio, but last year was an absolute disaster, and he's a rah-rah guy. He's not an X's and O's. I'm the team, like I'm the leader of this team, but when it comes to coaching decisions and play calling, not his forte, and I think he's got the right guys in place. And 27, I have Todd Bowles. I could argue I should put Todd Bowles in maybe a tier ahead. I just don't think he's a very good coach. I think that he's just been kind of riding the wave of the Tom Brady years, which was Bruce Arians, but he was the DC, riding that wave, and the team's been solid. The team does have a solid foundation though, and like I think he's just okay. I think he's uninspiring. Would I say he's on the hot seat right now? No. Could he be on the hot seat by week 5? Probably. Then we get into the rookie head coaches here, starting off with Dan Quinn at number 26. We've seen what Dan Quinn can do as a Falcons coach, or as a head coach with the Falcons. Made it to a Super Bowl, blew that Super Bowl. Yeah, like I like Dan Quinn. I think he's a better coordinator than head coach, but he gets his second chance now in Washington. Number 25, we get Brian Callahan, and I like Brian Callahan a lot, mainly because his dad, Bill Callahan, is one of the best offensive line coaches in the league, and he gets to work with some pretty good offensive linemen down there in Tennessee. Very unproven, but I've seen some videos of J.C. Latham working out with one of the sleds, and that man's got all the talent in the world, and if Bill Callahan can like rein that in and It's a very good potential piece for the Titans. Dave Canales, the new Panthers head coach, number 24. I just don't know much about Dave Canales. I know he was the Seahawks for a long time, and then last year, offensive coordinator for the Bucks. He seems to be a good voice, seems to know what he's doing, seems to have that personality and that like a little mojo. He's in the groove. I don't know. He comes in at number 24. Gerard Mayo, number 23. Former player, former Patriot, Hall of Very Good nominee. But yeah, this is his chance to lead the team, chance to call plays for the defense, and we'll see how he looks doing it. Mike McDonald, number 22. The Ravens defense has been tremendous under his watch the last couple of years. Let's see what he can do in Seattle. I was doing my interior defensive line rankings. The Seahawks interior defensive line, and like that's his thing, is rotating those guys on the interior. It's gonna be scary. Leonard Williams, Draymond Jones, Jaron Reed, and Byron Murphy, who they just drafted. That's going to be crazy. And then at number 21, I have Raheem Morris, the defensive coordinator for the Rams, formerly, now the Falcons head coach. I just really like that hire from the beginning. I like the staff around him, so he is my top rookie head coach. Now we get up into the influx tier. So this is kind of like these guys can go up, these guys can go rise, kind of like that next group. Starting off at number 19, I have Zach Taylor. We'll see how he looks without Brian Callahan as his offensive coordinator. We'll see how he looks without the defense being as strong as it has been, because that has been a major reason why the Bengals have been successful these last few years. So he comes in at number 19. I have Antonio Pierce, number 18. The players love him. A lot of players threatened to ask for trade offers if they didn't bring back AP. They did. I don't like a ton of his outside hires that he brought in. I don't think Tom Telesco is great, but he's trending up for me still. We'll see how the season plays out, but that's why he's in the influx tier right here. Robert Saleh, number 17. It is very clear this man can run a defense, and he can run a defense very, 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 very well. But that offensive side of the ball has always been lacking, always been struggling, and not his fault because he is the defensive guy, but at the end of the day, he is the head coach, and another season of the Jets offense failing, he could be out the door. Same with Joe Douglas. And at number 16, I have Brian Daboll. Making the playoffs that first year of him being a head coach might have been the worst thing to happen to the Giants organization. They paid Daniel Jones $40 million a year because of that season. Not great. I still think he's a very, very good coach, though. And yeah, the Giants are just kind of in this weird spot right now where they don't really know what they're doing. So Brian Daboll, number 16. The next tier I have up here is the old heads. Number 15, Jim Harbaugh, coming over from Michigan, former 49ers head coach. And I said it on Twitter, Jim Harbaugh is rather going to be exactly what the Chargers need, or he's going to be fired in the next, 4 years. Or fired before 2030, I think I said. Jim Harbaugh is, insane. I don't think there's any other way to put it. And he is a football guy through and through, but let's see if he can make it work again and completely rebuild this Chargers team. At number 14, Sean Payton. And Sean Payton, honestly, could be much, much lower on this list, but I'm still giving him the respect that New Orleans Sean Payton deserves. Because right now, in the way that this team and roster is going, it's looking like a disaster, setting up Bo Nix to start next year with not a lot around him receiver-wise, not a lot around him running back-wise. The offensive line is solid enough. But yeah, this is not a good Broncos team, and he still has to put his stamp on it, I guess. But yeah, I wouldn't have a problem putting Sean Payton in my 20s somewhere for the coaching, but right now he comes in at 14. The next tier I called the next crop of head coaches. These are kind of some younger guys. Number 14, I have Jonathan Gannon. Now, obviously, picked fourth overall this last year. Last year, not a success, but it was a success in my eyes because I thought the Cardinals were going to be far and away the worst team in the league, and they were very bad. Don't get me wrong, but they hung in. They hung in for a lot of games. Played them close, then things just kind of went away, and that's okay. But I think that he is trending way up this season. Got Kyler more of an offense to work with. The He's building the defense how he sees fit. I'm interested to see how Darius Robinson does. Number 13, Colts head coach Shane Steichen, mainly for the same reasons. I think that this defense is getting built very, very well, and the offense is, if Anthony Richardson is him, and I think that he is, this offense could be very, very scary behind a very good offensive line, a very good running game if Jonathan Taylor comes back to full form, and with Michael Pittman, A.D. Mitchell, Josh Downs, Alec Pierce, they got some weapons. And Shane Steichen did great with Gardner Minshew as his QB. Let's see what he does with one of the most physical freak athletes at the quarterback position that we've ever seen. Number 12, Kevin Stefanski. Kevin Stefanski, who just won Coach of the Year, comes in at number 12 and is what it is. I think Stefanski's a very good coach, and obviously going through all those quarterbacks last season, Joe Flacco was the reason he got Coach of the Year, but obviously under his tutelage, the Browns defense, he's not even a defensive guy. What am I saying? Either way, the offense still looked good. It's all about if the nasty man can be a good football quarterback anymore. I don't think he can. Stefanski, number 12. Kevin O'Connell comes in at number 11. Since he has gotten there, that Vikings offense has looked incredible, and it's set up very, very nicely again to be really good. It all depends on the quarterback play, whether it's Sam Darnold or J.J. McCarthy. But Kevin O'Connell, number 11. Number 10, I have D'Amico Ryans. Might be a little bit early as he was a rookie head coach last year, but the way that this Texans team is built on offense and defense, I think D'Amico is a very, very good head coach. And it would be hard to fuck it up with this roster that he has right now. So, D'Amico, number 10. Sean McDermott, number 9. And I think some people don't like Sean McDermott. Some people think Sean McDermott's probably on the hot seat a little bit. Maybe. I think Sean McDermott's still a very, very good coach. His defense, even with all the injuries that they have, they always come out hard. They always come out swinging. So yeah, again, the Bills have been one of the most consistent and best teams over these last 4 years. Has it amounted to anything? No, but Sean McDermott has been a very, very good coach over this decade, basically. At number 8, I have Dan Campbell, the ultimate Nick Sirianni, basically. Gets his guys going, the motivational speeches, he is a football guy. He loves the game. He loves his players. And I love Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell, number 8. Number 7 here, I have the boy genius. I got Mike McDaniel. I'm hoping that he finally has made the right call on who his defensive coordinator is. But since he's been the Dolphins head coach, he's done nothing but produce top 5 offenses. Just need to get that defensive side of the ball a little right. I think this is the year. I think this is what it's all building to, all culminating to. But Mike McDaniel, number 7. And at number 6, I have Matt LaFleur. There was a lot of questions of, did Aaron Rodgers carry him and blah, blah, blah. And he proved last year with Jordan Love that he should have been given the keys and Rodgers should have been told to take a step back, let Matt call the thing. And he was proved right. Jordan Love was excellent. This group of young weapons that the Packers have with Christian Watson and Jaden Reed and Romeo Dobbs and I forget one of the other guys' names. Either way, they got a lot of very solid young receivers. solid tight ends, Matt LaFleur, and that offense looked very good in the second half of the season last year. So Matt LaFleur, number 6. And then I kind of have the cream of the crop, the guys who have been around for a while, the tenured guys. John Harbaugh of the Ravens, Super Bowl champion, been the Ravens coach forever now. Of course, he's top 5. Mike Tomlin, number 4, never had a losing record in his entire Steelers career, and I don't think that changes for them this year. Sean McVay, number 3, hasn't been around as long as some of these other guys, but he is absolutely incredible and has been every single year he's been the head coach. Kyle Shanahan, number 2, his track record speaks for itself. His offenses have always been some of the best, and now going through that list, I think I named probably 7 Kyle Shanahan, seven guys in that Kyle Shanahan coaching tree, and I guess in sense the Mike Shanahan coaching tree. Shanny comes in at number 2, and of course number 1, Andy Reid. He's won 3 Super Bowls in the last 4 years. I think it's as simple as that. I'm gonna try to have these posted too, but those are my coach rankings. Now we get into the offensive line, and I'll go 1 to 32 this time, and starting off with my first tier, and this is proven best time after time. And obviously the Lions are number 1, and I have the supposed starters. I got a couple guys in my head about who should be fill-ins, if injuries or if things go whatever. But I only have last names down here, so there is a chance that I will be going through and I will see a last name and I won't know the guy's first name. And what that means to me is that player is probably not very good. Let's keep it going here. So Lions number 1, Taylor Decker left tackle, Graham Glasgow, Frank Ragnow, Kevin Zeitler, Penei Sewell. There is not a weak point on that offensive line. They are all absolute studs. And again, they have proven it time after time, and that's why this is the tier. At number 2, I have the Colts, Bernard Raymond, Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, Will Fries, and Braden Smith. And really the real emerging addition for this is, I think, now going into year 3, Bernard Raymond out of Tennessee started as a tight end, eventually put on a bunch of weight, moved to left tackle, and he has been absolutely incredible. He is one of the emerging star left tackles in this league, and a big reason why the Colts are at number 2 on my list. Falcons, we got Jake Matthews, Matthew Bergeron, Drew Dahlman, Chris Lindstrom, Caleb McGarry. Very, very solid across the board. Again, Lindstrom, one of the best guards in the league. Jake Matthews has been solid and dependable since I think he was drafted in 2014. Caleb McGarry been awesome too. Bergeron drafted last year. Falcons number 3. The Eagles number 4. After the Eagles have held the number 1 spot for a very long time now, they dropped to number 4, and mainly because Jason Kelce has retired, their Hall of Fame center. But the line is still very good. Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens taking over that spot. And Cam Jurgens has been on the team for a while now. He has been ready and he's been prepping for this opportunity. I think he will be great. Tyler Steen takes over that other guard position then. And Lane Johnson at right tackle. Still an incredible offensive line even without Jason Kelce. Now we go into the incredibly solid tier. At number 5, we have the Rams with Ulrich Jackson, Jonah Jackson, Steve Avila, Kevin Dodson, and Rob Havenstein. Out of nowhere, basically, the Rams' offensive line went from bad to very good, and they did that very quickly. Ulrich Jackson, Steve Avila, Kevin Dodson have really come into their own as players and have been the keys for this Rams run game and the Kyron Williams to get him going. At number 6, we have the Browns. Browns have had a very solid offensive line for a long time now. Jedrick Wills, Joel Bitonio, Ethan Posick, Wyatt Teller, Jack Conklin. At 7, we have the Texans, who I knew this was going to be one of their strengths going into last year. I just didn't know that everything else around that offense was going to be so great too. But Laramie Tunsil, Kenyon Green, Juice Scruggs, Shaq Mason, and Titus Howard. At number 8, we have the Raiders, who I don't think the Raiders' offensive line has been like that good. It's been very good. So Colton Miller at left tackle. They drafted Jackson Powers Johnson to play one of those guard positions. Andre James is their center. Dylan Parham at guard, and then Thayer Munford at right tackle. Munford was the swing tackle for them last year. They lost Jermaine Illuminor. So Mumford is probably that weak spot on that line, but they also brought in Andres Pete, who I think he's best suited for guard. He can play tackle, though. So, again, we've talked about that depth. Andres Pete is that depth for the Raiders. Now we're going into the next tier, and this is the high upside tier. And we're starting off with the Jets. The Jets, who last year was number 32, probably one of the worst offensive lines in the league. And now I'm ranking them inside my top 10. Like, I don't like Joe Douglas. I shit on Joe Douglas a lot, but hats off to Joe Douglas because you reinvented this offensive line in basically one offseason. Tyron Smith, John Simpson, Joel Tippmann, their center, whatever. Elijah Vera Tucker, Morgan Moses, and they drafted Olu Fashanu at pick 10 this year. So eventually, when Tyron Smith or Morgan Moses get hurt, Olu can slide in there. Like, didn't allow a sack his entire career at Penn State. But obviously, health is the issue with that offensive line, but they got a little bit of depth now. At number 10, we have the Steelers. I talked about the Steelers having one of my favorite drafts, and it's because they just drafted offensive linemen, essentially. Troy Futanu, left tackle, Isaac Suamalo at guard, Zach Fraser at center, James Daniels at guard, and Broderick Jones at that right tackle spot. If Futanu works out at left tackle, this is going to be a very, very good offensive line. Sky's the limit for those young guys. At 11, we have the Packers. Jordan Morgan, Elton Jenkins, Josh Myers, Sean Ryan, and Zach Tom. Zach Tom has quickly and quietly emerged as one of the best right tackles in the league. And again, I say quietly because I was looking it up and I'm like, I've heard Zach Tom's name like quite a bit. And then I looked up his PFF grade, and his PFF grade is very good. And I looked up other things, and people saying Zach Tom is really fucking good. So, yeah, Jordan Morgan is obviously the new addition. See how he does starting at left tackle. Obviously, it's always tough for a rookie, but Packers come in at 11. At number 12, we have the Vikings. Christian Darrisaw, one of the best left tackles in the league. Brandel, don't know who that is. Garrett Bradbury, Ed Ingram, and Brian O'Neill. So obviously that left guard spot that I don't know the guy's name, that's definitely the weak spot. And that interior offensive line is definitely a weak spot, but Darrisaw stud, Bradbury stud, Brian O'Neill, very good. That's all you need for a solid offensive line anyways. And at number 13, I have the Chargers. Rashawn Slater, Zion Johnson, Bradley Bozeman, Jamari Slayer, and Joe Alt. Obviously, this is all banking on Slater and Alt staying healthy and being the two building blocks of this offensive line. I saw a picture today. It was Joe Alt going against a DB, and that DB looked tiny. That DB was 6'2". Joe Alt is literally just a mammoth of a man at 6'8". Yeah, a lot of this really depends on if Bradley Bozeman is going to be the Bradley Bozeman from a few years ago, very solid, dependable center, or if he's going to be the Bradley Bozeman from the last couple seasons where he's just ass. The tackle spots look great for the Chargers. The interior, I guess we'll see. At number 14, we have the Chiefs. Wanya Morris, Joe Tooney, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, and Jawan Taylor. They also drafted Kingsley Suamaitai out of BYU? TCU. BYU. So yeah, I don't know if Wanya Morris is going to get the start there. We'll see. And basically the exact opposite of the Chargers, where this interior of the Chiefs' offensive line, fucking great. Left tackle, I don't know who it's going to be. Jawan Taylor, I think he had the most penalties for any tackle in the league last year. Like, solid when he doesn't get penalties, but, like, they're paying him a decent amount of money. But yeah, that Chiefs interior is still very good. And then at number 15, another team who has shuffled a lot this offseason on the offensive line. It is the Dallas Cowboys with Tyler Guyton, Tyler Smith, Cooper Beebe, Zach Martin, and Terrence Steele. Tyler Guyton and Cooper Beebe both being rookies, and it's kind of tough relying on two rookies to start on your offensive line, but that's exactly what the Cowboys are asking to do, and that'll be a huge indicator on how the Cowboys do this season, because the offensive line it's in flux. It looks, I keep saying in flux, but like what do I have? High upside. Like if Guyton and Beebe are both like very good off the bat, this offensive line is going to be very good. If they struggle, it could be a not a great season for the Cowboys, I should say. This next tier, I have the pieces are there. The rest of the offensive line is, but the pieces are there anyways. Starting off at number 16, we have the Broncos, Garrett Bowles, Ben Powers, Wattenberg, sure, Quinn Miners, Mike McGlinchey, Bowles, Powers, Miners, I like a lot. Mike McGlinchey, not great in pass protection, still a great run blocker. It's a solid offensive line. It's not great, but good enough. Good enough if they all stay healthy. At number 17, I have the Buccaneers, Tristan Wirfs, left tackle, Ben Bredson, Graham Barden, Cody Mock, and Luke Gadecki. Bredson, Mock, Gadecki, not great. Tristan Wirfs is obviously the all-pro left tackle. They drafted Graham Barden to be that center. Hopefully he's good right out the gate, but they've got some question marks on that offensive line, to say the least. Then we go to the 49ers at number 18. Trent Williams, Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, John Feliciano, and Colton McKivitz. The only reason this offensive line is up so high is because Trent Williams is still the best left tackle in the league. Everyone else I named is average to below average at their position, but Trent Williams is still a superstar, so that's why they get 18. Number 19, we have the Bears here. Braxton Jones, Tevin Jenkins, Bates. Is it Ryan Bates? It might be Ryan Bates. Nate Davis and Darnell Wright. Braxton Jones, Jenkins, and Wright have all been very solid. I think Wright was the only real healthy offensive lineman that they had last year. So hopefully this unit can stay cohesive and stay together despite injuries. And then at number 20 here, we have the Titans with J.C. Latham, whatever, Peter Skronsky, Lloyd Cushenberry, Daniel Brunskill, and Dylan Radins. Yeah, I talked about Latham a little bit earlier. Like, he is a monster. He is so strong. He gets his hands on you. You're not moving, and he gets to work with Bill Callahan. So we'll see how this goes. And I like Skronsky. I like Cushenberry. Brunskill, solid, average guard. Dylan Radins, he was a left tackle at North Dakota State, got drafted to be a guard for some reason. Now they're pitting him at right tackle, and good run blocker last year apparently, but needs to work on pass blocking. But if you can get like above average on something, like that's good. And the next tier I have could go bad. Starting off with the Bengals with Orlando Brown, Cordell Volson, Ted Karras, Alex Kappa, and Trent Brown. They also obviously drafted Amarius Mims, who will probably play tackle at some point this year when Trent Brown eventually goes down or Orlando Brown eventually goes down. I might put him in guard instead of Cordell Volson because he's not very good. And then Kappa and Karras, again, average, below average, but like their names, they're fine, they're whatever, but lot of injury potential for this Bengals line. Number 22, we have the Pats, Chuks Okafor, Cole Strange, David Andrews, Sidney So, and Michael Onwenu. If they had another tackle and they could kick Onwenu inside the guard, I really like their interior. But Okafor is an issue. So is Young, and we'll see. And Onwenu is solid at right tackle. His best spot is in the interior, but whatever. Pat's 22. The Bills, I have the Bills at 23. Dion Dawkins, David Edwards, Connor McGovern, Osiris Torres, and Spencer Brown. Obviously, the big loss for them this year was Mitch Morse. Yeah, again, solid offensive line, but it's not great, and I don't see a lot of room for improvement. So they lose one of these guys on the offensive line. It could go downhill fast. Number 24, I have the Jaguars. Cam Robinson, Ezra Cleveland, Mitch Morse, Brandon Sheriff, and Anton Harrison. Mitch Morse hopefully is a big addition to get this offensive line over the hump because I like a lot of the names on this list. Anton Harrison, a former first round pick. Cam Robinson, a former first round pick. Brandon Scherf, a former first round pick. None of them have really lived up to that potential yet, though. So here's hoping, I guess. Number 25, the Panthers. Ike Ekwonu, Lewis. Damian Lewis, Austin Corbett, Robert Hunt, and Taylor Moton. They obviously invested a ton into the guard positions this year with Damian Lewis and Robert Hunt. They're hoping that Ike Ekwonu bounces back. They hope Taylor Moton drops back. Austin Corbett is solid. Like, this offensive line, this is another one of those offensive lines where if everything gels and everything goes right, they could see a huge bump in their play next season, and the Panthers offense take a huge bump in play next season too. Now, the last tier here, I have depleted talent. Starting off 26, I have the Baltimore Ravens. Ronnie Stanley, Andrew Voorhees, Tyler Linderbaum, Ben Cleveland, and Roger Rosengarten. So the Ravens lost John Simpson, Kevin Zeitler, and Morgan Moses last year. That's 3 starters on the offensive line. That's 3 very good starters on that offensive line. So we'll see how they bounce back. The Ravens usually have strong offensive lines, and a lot of that has to do with coaching. So we'll see how they do. See how they do there. Number 27, we have the Seahawks. Charles Cross, Laken Tomlinson, Oluwatimi, Christian Haynes, and Abe Lucas. Like, Charles Cross has been solid. Abe Lucas had a really good rookie year and then kind of dipped down last year. Laken Tomlinson needs to bounce back after getting cut after his big contract. The other 2 guys I have no real comment on. At 28, we have the Giants, Andrew Thomas, Aaron Stinney, John Michael Schmitz, John Runyon, and Evan Neal. They also signed Jermaine Illuminor, who might play that right tackle spot. And that might kick Evan Neal inside, or I have no idea what their plan for Evan Neal is, but like, Andrew Thomas is fantastic, but the rest of that offensive line is still not up to par whatsoever. Hopefully with Stinney and Runyon, they upgrade their guard play and the offensive line just gets a little bit better, and a little bit better from what they were last year is still fantastic. And at number 29, I have the Miami Dolphins. So Dolphins, Teron Armstead, Isaiah Wynn, Aaron Brewer, Liam Eichenberg, and Austin Jackson. Obviously still hoping that post June 1st, when we get a little bit more money, we sign some vet in free agency right now to add to this line. We also obviously drafted Patrick Paul, who left tackle of the future, supposedly, apparently. And everything since he's gotten drafted has been he's one of the hardest workers, he's coachable, blah, 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 and he's a freak athlete. I love hearing all of that. And he will have to play at some point because, like Trent Brown and like a lot of these other tackles, he will get hurt at some point, and Patrick Paul will have to step in, and hopefully he's fucking good right off the bat because this offensive line, not great, not great. That's why they're 29. At number 30, we got the Cardinals, Paris Johnson, Elijah Wilkinson, Hajolti Frodhol, Will Hernandez, and Jonah Williams. Paris Johnson, the first round pick from last year. Solid. Now he's moving over to left tackle. Jonah Williams has been a solid tackle for most of his career, so he goes there on the right side. The interior is the interior. Not great, but still probably better than what they had last year. So slight upgrade. Number 31, we have the Commanders. We got Lucas, don't know who that is, Nick Allegretti, Tyler Biotish, Sam Cosme, and Andrew Wiley. Allegretti and Wiley are basically Chiefs cast-offs who played in big games and big moments, but got put in those positions because they were backups, and that's what they are. They're backup level players. Everyone else, like Biadish, I think he made a Pro Bowl early in his career, but he hasn't been great. There's a reason why the Cowboys didn't re-sign him. Cosme's been whatever, and I don't even know who their left tackle is. And at number 32, I have the Saints with Tali Fuaga, Udo. I wanted to say Ekpe Udo, but that's an NBA player. Eric McCoy, Cesar Ruiz, and Ryan Ramczyk, who might not even be playing this year because his knee, he has a degenerative knee issue. So his career might be done. Trevor Penning fucking sucks. That's why they drafted Fuaga. Eric McCoy is pretty good. I don't know who Udo is. Cesar Ruiz has been a bit of a disappointment since he's been drafted. But yeah, if Fuaga isn't great right off the bat, this offensive line, it is not going to be pretty. So that does it for the offensive line. Now let's move into the quarterbacks, and I'll start from the bottom this time. Starting off in the Prove Me Wrong category. At number 32, I have the combo of Bo Nix, Jarrett Stidham, Zach Wilson. All career backups in my mind. All not very good. I have no faith in Bo Nix. That's why he has to prove me wrong. 31, I got Danny Nichols. It is what it is. He's just not very good. He got paid $40 million. He got paid a shit ton of money. Good for him, but not a very good NFL quarterback. At number 30, I got the Vikings duo, J.J. McCarthy, Sam Darnold. Not a big believer in J.J. I think his ceiling can be fairly high, but I don't see it for this year. He's in a very, very good spot, so we'll see. And at number 29, I have the nasty man, the Cleveland Browns quarterback, who has just simply not played good ball since 2021. Like, since those allegations came out, he has been a well below average quarterback, not good basically whatsoever. That's why he needs to prove me wrong, and I hope he doesn't, because he's a piece of shit person. At number 28 here, we got the Steelers guys, Justin Fields, Russell Wilson. Not sure who's going to get the start. I think Russ is probably going to get the start, and Fields might steal it from him at some point. Russ is Russ at this point, like solid vet, like QB to have around, not going to win you many games. Justin Fields, the upside is still there, but he's got to learn pocket presence and get better awareness and just a better arm in general, better accuracy. Number 27, I have Bryce Young, and I think Bryce Young is poised for a bit of a breakout year. Last year was obviously awful, but it's tough to put a QB in a situation with no run game, no offensive line, and his best weapon's Adam Thielen. I know the feeling. That's what Tua had to go through his rookie year. And Bryce looked absolutely terrible. I could say Tua had his moments. Tua wasn't great. But Bryce's stats were objectively bad. And now with hopefully a better offensive line, invested in the run game, invested in the pass catchers, he's in a spot now where, okay, Bryce, let's see what you can do. We believe in you. But for right now, he comes in at number 27. Number 26, Will Levis. Not much difference between him and Bryce, in my opinion, except Will Levis actually showed some flashes and showed some talent. And Bryce did too. Will Levis did it more consistently. And yeah, now Will Levis gets to do it, throwing to Hopkins, Ridley, Tyler Boyd. Decent run game. Should be interesting. Number 25, Jaden Daniels, the rookie out of LSU, Heisman winner. We'll see what he looks like. Not a great running game, not a great offensive line. Terry McLaurin, the only real weapon. They're not really setting him up for success, but no offensive line. He's a dynamic runner. Maybe it plays into his hand. At number 24, we get the Patriots quarterbacks, Jacoby Brissett, Drake May. I'm hoping that Drake May doesn't play a single snap this year because they need to sit him. I think that he could play and he'd be fine and whatever, but this Pats offense is not good at all. Spoiler, I have them for their pass catchers ranked 31 out of 32 teams. Good job, Patriots. But yeah, I like Jacoby. I think he's a very capable starter, very good bridge vet quarterback type guy. And he should be getting the starts. He should be taking those lumps while the Pats figure out their offense this year. Number 23, I got Gardner Minshew. We saw what he did with the Colts last year. He looked, again, very capable bridge quarterback. They don't have a quarterback that they want to bridge yet, but Gardner is great. I'm be interested to see what he does behind that offensive line and weapons. Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers should be fun. Oh yeah, and that was the vets and youngins category. So that was kind of like the young quarterbacks, and then the other vets who I didn't want to put in the prove me wrong category. Now we just have starters. We got Geno at 22, Baker at 21, and both guys are starting quarterbacks in this league. They're not great starting quarterbacks, but they're starting quarterbacks, and simple as that. Next, we have the limitless talent category. Number 20, Caleb Williams, and number 19, Anthony Richardson. Caleb Williams, we all know the hype around him. He's getting called a generational prospect. I think that's a little rich. I do think he's a hell of a good prospect, though, and he's getting put into one of the best situations put around a rookie QB and a rookie QB of his talent in quite a long time. And on the other hand, Anthony Richardson, who you saw the talent in the few games he played last year. Now he's coming back healthy. Now this team is healthier, has more around him on offense, and limitless talent between these two guys, and the sky's the limit on where they go next year. Next category here is I got my franchise QBs. These are guys who they can make a run in the playoffs. They can even win a Super Bowl if the circumstances and situations are right. At number 18, I have Aaron Rodgers. We have not seen Aaron Rodgers play high-level football like Deshaun Watson since 2021. 2022 was a bad season for the Packers. 2023, we saw 4 snaps. Now the 40-year-old quarterback goes back with the Jets in better offensive line, a little bit better weapons, but we'll see what Aaron Rodgers shows up. But for right now, he's a number 18. Number 17, we have Trevor Lawrence. Now, some people might be, Trevor Lawrence, he's a top 10 quarterback. No, he is not. It's as simple as that. We have seen the flashes, and we've seen what Trevor Lawrence can be. It has just not been consistent whatsoever across his career. I'm hoping, I need to see consistent level play from Trevor Lawrence. I think he can do it. I think that he can still make that jump to potentially be a top 5 quarterback at some point in this league, but I need to see that jump soon because we are going into year 4 for him. And he hasn't put up great numbers, really. Number 16, Kyler Murray. Kyler's here mainly because he's had his injuries his last few years. Hasn't looked great, mainly because the team around him has also stunk and the coaching around him has stunk, but he's put in a very good spot. And I still believe in Kyler Murray, the quarterback, and Kyler to potentially be a top 10 quarterback. He was an early MVP candidate for a couple seasons, too. Also like Tua Tagovailoa, but people don't want to hear that. But yeah, Kyler finally has a wide receiver 1 since Hopkins got dealt in Marvin Harrison, and yeah, another guy who I'm expecting a bigger year for Kyler this year. Number 15, Kirk Cousins, the finesse god himself with all of this fucking money he has made over his career. But again, Kirk Cousins is kind of my indicator on if you're better than Kirk Cousins, you got a guy. If you're worse than Kirk Cousins, you still might have a guy, but you got to work to it a little bit. Yeah, Kirk is good. He's getting a little older, obviously also coming off his own Achilles injury. But now he's in Atlanta with Zach Robinson, who should run similar type of concepts to what Kirk was doing in Minnesota. He's got Drake London. He's got Kyle Pitts. I like Kirk Cousins. At number 14 here, I have Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's been great, and all he has done since he's become a starter in this league is win football games. But his team around him is also awesome, and I haven't seen many games where Brock Purdy truly takes charge and wins the game. And there's nothing wrong with being a game manager and doing what you're doing, but at a certain point, you got to take those leaps. And I do. I like Brock Purdy a lot, but would Brock Purdy still look the same without some of the guys around him? Who's to say? But he's on the Niners, and that's what matters. So Brock Purdy in at number 14. Oh, wait. I messed this up. I have Brock Purdy here twice. Where are my numbers wrong then? I might be missing a starting quarterback here. No, that's not fun. Who am I missing? Okay, I'm going to pause this and I'll get back to it. Okay, yeah, so the QB I was missing was Derek Carr. Obviously, very forgettable. So I'm sliding him at 29 in the prove me wrong category. Easy, I don't know. Derek Carr's not very good at being a quarterback. Okay, going back to the franchise guys. Number 13 now, Jared Goff. Yeah, Goff is, I mean, he just got paid. He's been very good, very consistent as a QB, obviously with the right things around him, but Goff comes in at number 13. At number 12, I actually have Brock Purdy. So take everything I said about Brock Purdy, put him at number 12 instead of number 14, I guess it would have been. Purdy number 12 at Tua Tagovailoa, number 11. Has been the quarterback of a top 5 offense for the last 2 seasons. He answered the injury questions. Now he just has to kind of get that late season play and playoff play now. Get that monkey off his back. I still fully believe in him. Led the league in passing yards last year. Was a top 5 quarterback in basically almost every metric for the last 2 years. And I know, he's going for the nerds, going for the analytics, the eye test. He's not there. I don't care. Tua, number 11 quarterback in the league. At number 10, I have Dak Prescott. Dak is great. Dak has been a very good quarterback in this league for a while now. But again, if it's him, if it's his coaching, if it's a bunch of other factors, has not gotten over that hump ever, and hasn't for a while with very good teams around him again. So Dak Prescott, number 10. Now we get into the superstar category. At number 9, we have Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts kind of fell off a little bit last year. Still very good, but definitely a tush-push merchant. So yeah. So he's number 9. And number 8, I have Jordan Love. This might be a little bit premature for Jordan Love, but that second half of the season I saw from him last year was absolutely fantastic and sets him up in my mind to be one of the superstar quarterbacks. I think he already is a superstar quarterback, but I think he's set up very, very nicely this year for a big season. CJ Stroud, number 7, obviously rookie of the year, had a phenomenal rookie season, and now his offense is better. They got Stephon Diggs, they added Joe Mixon, the offensive line is still good. CJ Stroud, I think, has already been a very popular MVP vote. Or MVP bet. I wouldn't go that far yet, but he comes in at number 7. Number 6, I have Justin Herbert. Very good to start his career. The last couple seasons for him have been relatively lackluster. And now a complete overhaul of the offense and offensive personnel comes in, and now it is truly his offense. There's no one else around to really help him. It's Justin Herbert versus the world, and he's got his 2 building blocks at tackles, but other than that, you got nothing at wide receiver. You got nothing at running back virtually. It's Justin Herbert, and we will see how Justin Herbert does just being the only thing in that offense, basically, to make it go. At number 5, I have Matt Stafford here. Matt Stafford, just criminally underrated for most of his career, has consistently been a top 10 quarterback for me, and he's won that Super Bowl. He's gotten over that hump, and he makes the jump for me. I think he is still producing at a very, very high rate. he's obviously getting older, and it could always be the season where he dips off a little bit, but Matt Stafford is still playing like a top 5 quarterback in my mind. Now the next tier is we get to the elite guys. Number 4, Joe Burrow, obviously hurt last year. Didn't look good whatsoever last year, but has enough under his belt, and we know what to expect from Joe Burrow. He is that dude. Number 3, Lamar Jackson, 2-time MVP. Not much more to say. Obviously has his playoff woes, but Lamar is Lamar. 2-time MVP is, I think, the only thing I really need to say. And number 2, we have Josh Allen. Not a ton of accolades in his name, but I think he's one of the only quarterbacks to have 40-plus touchdown seasons in 4 straight years. That's rushing included. But Josh Allen is incredible. He is a superhuman when he is playing his best football. There is only one other QB in this league who can match him, and that's Pat Mahomes. And Pat Mahomes has gotten the best of him many a time so far, and that leaves us to number 1 in a category of his own, the Mahomes category, Patrick Mahomes. One of the greatest of all time already. He is firmly my number 2 quarterback ever. And he has a chance to push Brady. I don't think he'll ever do it, and I don't think he'll ever usurp Brady in my mind. But yeah, Pat Mahomes, number 1. And that does it for head coach, offensive line, and quarterback rankings. Yeah, so as I said before, after I compile all my stuff, I'm going to put it into a table, going to average out everything, and then that'll give off those power rankings, and then I'll compare it to my own power rankings. It'll be fun. It'll be a good exercise. But yeah, that'll basically do it for this episode. One more final topic. If you've noticed, I've been wearing a Jacksonville Jags throwback sweater. They got their old logo from like the late 90s, early 2000s on it. Very good find at the 613 flea market. But then a question came to my mind of, is it okay as a Dolphins fan to wear other teams' apparel? I put it to a vote on Twitter. I only got 10 votes, but it was like 80% no, it's not okay, and 10 or 20% yes, it is okay. And I've kind of settled on this. If the Dolphins were to cease to exist tomorrow, if their franchise was wiped off the map, Roger Goodell going into this year was like, nope, that's not a team anymore, you guys are done, I would still be on my couch every single Sunday watching football regardless. I'd have to pick a new team, obviously, but I would be sat on my ass watching the games. I am an NFL fan first and foremost, and if I find sick fucking vintage NFL gear, I will buy it. I will wear it if I like the team. I like Jacksonville. I think they got cool colors. Bit of a weird history, but they got some dudes back in those days. Thomas Jones, Jimmy Smith, Keenan McCardell, David Garrard. Like, those are names. They're not any really great names, but they're fun names from back then. Yeah, and I will continue to build up my NFL wardrobe. I really want, like that picture of Rob Lowe in the stands with his NFL hat, where it's like, oh, I'm just here to cheer for both teams. I want that NFL hat. I love that NFL hat. I would rock the shit out of that NFL hat if I got one. But yeah, I guess that'll do it. If you have liked this, please like, share, retweet, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And until next time, peace.